Tonight, we are talking about Inauguration Day. That's right. We are 7 days away from saving America. So we're going to talk about what Trump's going to do on day one. I think it's going to involve border action. I hope it involves border action. We'll see what's going to happen there. And I'm joined by a very special guest to talk about it. Plus, California is still on fire. Gavin Newsom's making excuses. Reservoirs are empty. It's a crisis, and it's not the climate. Plus, we're also talking about Judge Merchan politically sentencing Donald Trump. That and so much more, and it's all on the David Pollack Show.
Americans are feeling the squeeze, struggling with the cost of everything from gas.
How do you feel about the economy? Raising interest rates.
Iran's most intense strike ever against Israel.
Get up, puppet.
What, Dave? What?
We got work to do.
Puppet Carlson reporting for duty. I'm driving, Dave.
You're not driving.
I am driving, Dave. I'm in the Cybertruck.
Come on.
I'm gonna regret this.
All right, I don't know about this. Are you sure you want to try to drive?
Dave, Elon made this sucker to drive itself.
All right.
Let's boogie. I got this, man.
Can you even reach the pedals?
Sit down and cool it.
Puppet, pick a lane.
Chill out, Dave. I'm a non-binary driver.
Let's get to work.
Wait up, Dave. I'm the star of this show.
Welcome to another exciting David Pollack Show featuring the plush patriot, Puppet Carlson, right there, Puppet. And
That's
just so
right,
you know,
Dave.
there's no confusion here. It did say the David Pollack Show. You're right, Puppet. You host my show one time and you change your logo.
You know, I just thought that, the show was a little better. So I fixed up the logo and I figured we'd do this officially, right?
You're out telling everybody it's your show. I've been hearing on the streets that since you hosted, I heard you water cooler conversation, locker room talk, whatever you want to call it. You saying, yeah, you know what? I don't understand. What's up with that David Pollack guy? I think I'm a better host than he is.
It says sidekick
right?
David Pollack. Giving you top billing for second billing.
Yeah. You're like, I can run circles around that guy, even with a hand up my butt.
Yeah. That's what I said.
That's what I heard you said.
Pretty much.
People talk, Puppet. People talk.
Oh, yeah.
And it all gets back to me. The social media world is very, very small.
Yeah,
So-
I know. You got a lot of friends.
Not
You got
really.
a lot of
They're all here right
political
now.
friends.
I have you on my show. That tells you how many friends I have, right?
Exactly.
I have to create them. and not only do I have to create them, somebody has to literally shove their hands in their behind just to get them to talk to me. That's sad.
And that guy doesn't even like you.
I know. That's anyway. Well, anyway, Puppet, tonight, now that I'm all depressed, let's get happy again because we are I cleverly titled the show Saving America in 7 Days because in 7 days, Donald Trump becomes president. And that is really exciting.
Isn't that an amazing feeling to know, to think about that?
Think about what we overcame, right? We had 2 impeachments. We had 2.5 assassination attempts. We had 4 indictments and a partridge in a pear tree. We had 1 million civil cases. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on.
Them anymore, the cases and
right.
the
Not
number
to mention,
of indictments and ridiculous.
Not to mention the Mueller investigation for 1.5 years, the investigation to nowhere. I mean, what they put this man through, and of course, the cultural war of convincing everybody that even if you perform at an inauguration where Trump might be speaking, if you liked Trump, if you voted for Trump, if you liked anybody that liked or voted for Trump, you were banned, canceled, toxic. And tonight, I didn't even say it in the open. We're gonna. What's that?
Racist, xenophobic, homophobic.
Yeah, all those things.
Yeah.
And now everything's changing. And I have a clip I'm going to play later. It's going to be during the panel, and it's a surprise. And we have actually some really cool panelists on tonight. And I'm going to miss our typical panelists, but I had to make room for our next guest for his friends. That was the condition from coming on the show. He says, "I'll only come on if I can bring my friends, so I don't have to talk to just you." I think that was the condition he made.
Yeah,
but,
well, I mean, I can see why he made that condition.
I know, because he's like, "I'm not just talking to you with a puppet." And that's not what he said. He was gracious.
No,
he
said you, not me.
Yeah, he's very excited to come on the show. And, tonight we're going to talk a little bit about what Trump's going to do on day one as well, because personally for me, and this video did really well on social media, I'm really excited about the border. Action on the border finally. We saw the Laken Riley Act was passed. We'll see if Biden signs it or Trump signs it. I don't know how long. I have to do my math to see how long it could sit there and whoever has to sign it. But Laken Riley Act passed, which now sends, I can't believe this wasn't law before, but it requires the DHS to detain criminal aliens that commit serious crimes.
I mean, why would you do that?
Right. Why would we do that?
Isn't that called like police work or something?
Yeah, well, in sanctuary America under Joe Biden. So that's exciting. And then, of course, Tom Homan saying we'll do whatever it takes to deport people. And we're going to talk about all that tonight. And to talk about this, I have a very special guest that I want to introduce to you guys. He's the man right there. And I'm echoing again, Puppet.
When you switched, when you brought him in, you started echoing.
Yeah. Anyway.
It was so bizarre.
This is Chris Clem. He's a former retired border chief from the Yuma sector. And welcome to the show, Chris.
David, thank you so much. And it was a pleasure meeting you a few weeks back and getting me on the Puppet Show. I mean, that was key.
That's it.
I couldn't believe it when you said, "Hey, I can get you on." So I'm like, I'm in and bring my friend.
That's it. He was so excited. He's like, "Wait a minute, I get to go on the Puppet Carlson show featuring David Pollack?" And I said, "Yeah." Well, it's a funny story. And then I want your professional bio, but I should tell the audience this story about how we met. It was a fateful night. We were at AmFest, and which was there's a couple of political events that are by far my favorite. Brandon Strzok's Walk-A-Con was one of my favorites ever, and I tell him that all the time, and it's true. AmFest in Arizona. Way up there. So much fun. I met so many great patriots like yourself. And for those of you who haven't gone to political events, go. And if you think the tickets are expensive, get a press pass. Find a cheap general admission, because I'll tell you where the magic happens. At the hotel bars before and after the speakers, because the events themselves are great. You learn a lot. You interact with a lot of great patriots. You get motivated. You get energized to go and really do the work to save America. But it's at the hotel bars, whether you drink or not, where you just sit around, you shake hands, you meet people, you network, and you meet so many interesting people you follow on social media, people you see on TV. And I was fortunate enough to run into you, Chris, and you were with a couple of people. And I'll admit I made a jerk out of myself, but apparently I didn't. You just made me feel like I did. And you could tell the story. But essentially, that's how I ran into you. I'm walking around a bar and somebody says, "You got to meet these people." I say, "Cool." I sit down, introduce myself to you. And I don't know if I want to let you tell the rest of this story, but go ahead.
Well, I recall it differently. I think we met the night before at a party, right? At the big O'Keefe Ray party or something.
Right. We met at a rave. We met at a yes.
Yeah, it was. It was. Then there was a lot of VIPs there. It was quite an event. I hadn't. I'm aging myself. You can look at the hair, but it's been a long time since I've been to a party like that. But we had a great time. Got to meet some great people. One of them being you, David, and then we got to see each other Saturday evening at the hotel lobby bar, where I was meeting with my friends Mahek and Jessica and Bianca, along with my wife. We were all there, and towards the end of the evening, you showed up, and it was really, look, we want to get to some serious stuff, but I know we want to have some fun too. But for the audience, and like I mentioned when we were talking before, I've never had a fishing excursion where I can throw in one cast with one little small piece of bait and hook somebody so quickly. I had David feeling like, man, we were having this great conversation. It was my wife, 3 ladies, 4 ladies total. I'm the one guy. I'm like, hey, man, you're jonesing in on my conversation here. But we had a lot of fun, and it took a while. I think it was probably about 2 hours before David realized. Yeah, we were just messing with him, and because even the girls were picking on him a little bit. So it was fun. But there were some famous people around that were distracting, that were keeping everybody occupied. But at the end of the day, as he mentioned about some of these political events. It's about bringing like-minded people, especially when you are part of a group that wants to save America, that wants to make America great again, that wants to bring us back to constitutional and conservative values that protect our border, protect our country, law and order, and make a strong economy. And that's what you saw at AmFest. Again, speakers, so many to list and name, and they're great to hear, but really it's the networking and meeting people, because for years you were canceled if you wore a red hat or you claimed to be a Republican or supported Trump. Now, I was never canceled. I was never going to back down from any of that stuff. But so many people, I tell you, I would have seen them on the street. I would never guess that they were conservative till you go to these events, right? So I like you said, I encourage people for one night, a speaker, a party during the day. It is really, really eye-opening because yeah, my wheelhouse is border security, law enforcement, but there's so many other areas that you just kind of go, wow, this is great. And man, I haven't felt so good about the Trump election and the victory than when I came out of Phoenix a couple of weeks ago at AmFest, because I saw this movement. And again, all jokes aside, great to be here tonight and be on this platform and be able to continue to have this conversation with you, Puppet,
absolutely.
and the audience.
And speaking of your experience at the border, so you're a retired border chief, Yuma, which is a very heavily traveled sector. Can you tell the audience a little bit about your experience in the border patrol, or I guess it's ICE Border Patrol? Yeah,
it's U.S. Border Patrol. We're part of Homeland Security. When I started in 1995 under President Clinton, was Immigration and Naturalization Service under the Department of Justice. And obviously after 9/11, it changed to Department of Homeland Security. But Border Patrol stayed intact. I spent 27 and a half years wearing that uniform. I started off as a young agent in the Boot Heel of New Mexico in 1995 and worked my way up all the way through the GS schedule into senior executive service. So I worked under 5 administrations. I did 2 years under the Biden administration. So the hell with this. This is not ineptitude. This isn't just political spite. This is an ideological change that is not about putting America and American security first, especially when it came to our border. As the chief in Yuma, there's 20 Border Patrol sectors. I was one of 20 chiefs. At the time, I was the second senior chief in the Border Patrol in the field. And we were ground zero for the border crisis, for Biden's border crisis. For most of the tenure I was there as chief, for the 2 years I was there as chief, we went back and forth with Del Rio. Del Rio made some headlines as well as Yuma. But just to give some context, the last year under Trump, Yuma had just over 8,800 arrests. The first year under Biden, it went up to 112,000. And the next year it went up to over 310,000, and we still had the same 950 Border Patrol agents, to include myself. We were the benefactor of a lot of wall, a lot of technology of the Trump border security plan. And it was all cut off and turned off. And wow, all of a sudden policies and technology and wall get stopped. That's why you go from 8,800 to over 100,000 people, over 300,000. And one last thing I want everybody to understand is Trump was the president that actually made it happen. Every administration that I worked under, Clinton, Bush, Obama, they all made efforts to try to secure the border. I was hired under Clinton, big push back in 1994 and 95. Bush, after 9/11, built a lot of infrastructure, really put our first border security plan in place because of 9/11. Obama, who was trying to work a deal, comprehensive immigration reform, built a lot of wall and was labeled the deporter in chief. But we still had not finished what we needed, all the requirements that agents needed, where we needed it. And Trump, again, build a wall was a great slogan, but it was so much more than that. It was the system of systems that Border Patrol agents needed. President Trump executed on the requirements of Border Patrol agents, not Washington bureaucrats, but what agents on the ground needed, what they fed up to station leadership, to sector leadership, that we fed up to Washington, said, get this done. He was executing it like it had never been done before. And I will tell you that at the time, I had 25 years in, and that was the most secure our border had been, backed by physical infrastructure as well as policies and an attitude out of Washington saying, we're going to keep America safe and secure. It was just turned off on Inauguration Day under Joe Biden, and all hell broke loose. And I literally went from 25 arrests a day to 500 arrests a day to 1,000 arrests a day in the first, 6 to 9 months under Joe Biden in one little sector in Yuma. And it was crazy. And so as a retired Border Patrol chief, as a retired career Border Patrol agent, I am so excited that we are going to have President Trump and this administration that he is picking right now to lead America, not only in every arena, but where it matters most to me, where it's near and dear to my heart, because I still live in a border state, is he's going to get border security right.
Here's exactly what Trump, and it's so impressive to hear you say those numbers, because, of course, we all know that Biden is responsible for the surge across the border. We know, well, we can't say we know. We suspect that we know the ulterior motives to having an open border. But now here's what Trump says he's going to do on day one, and let's check it out.
You're preparing a number of executive orders that are going to next Monday afternoon. Immigration is the big one, and that's where I wanted to go to next. How fast do you think Americans are going to see results? We're going to start seeing deportations. How fast will we feel what you're about to do?
Immediately. It's going to be immediate. We had the safest border in history during my presidency, when I turned around and looked at that beautiful chart that came down from a crane or wherever it came from. That was a chart on immigration with the best immigration numbers we ever had. We're going to have them again. We're going to have them maybe even better. But we have to get a lot of people out. We have criminals at a level that nobody could believe, terrorists, and as I said, murderers, people that murdered people. Many people murdered more than when they came from prisons, and they came from mental institutions, insane asylums. They're street.
Yep. And listen, when Trump says he's going to do something on day one, I believe him. What do you think? What do you think day one's going to look like next Monday?
Well, before I get into that, I want to tell you something about that chart he refers to. Second part of his first term, he lost the House, and the Democrats were coming hard for us at the border, making things very difficult, making it difficult for the Trump administration, blocking funding for policies like Remain in Mexico, attacking the prosecutorial initiatives that we had. So as the deputy chief in El Paso at the time, the chief and I, we created a chart that was tracking the numbers leading up to and before. When I got to chief in Yuma, I updated the chart where it showed all the things we had done, from coming out of Obama through Trump, and then where we were to date with Biden. And I was hosting Governor Ducey and his team, and they somehow took a picture of that chart. Just weird how I had that chart where they could take a picture of it. Wink, wink. And next thing you know, it's a backdrop of several briefings over the next 24 to 72 hours, and it morphed into something bigger. And so the storyline of that is that chart he refers to actually had its origination in El Paso and then again in Yuma. And that's when that people started showing that, tracking that timeline. And it's a beautiful chart because it does show in real time what happened, what policies were in place when they were taken away, when Mexico created a National Guard, when they slowed it down, when Biden came in. I mean, it just really shows all that stuff. So it's very, very important. And a picture tells 1,000 words. So those charts are very, very powerful. Now, back to your question on day one. Trump means business. I've never seen him stutter when it comes down to he's going to do something. I can tell you, and I'll preface it, if you've seen the movie Braveheart and you know that time where William Wallace is telling everybody to hold, that's what the agents, that's what the ICE officers are doing. That's what the ICE agents, it's all the immigration and federal law enforcement are holding until he is sworn in, and then we're ready to go. All right. So that there's going to be the handcuffs are off, and we're going to start putting handcuffs on bad guys. We're going to see an immediate executive action saying move towards wall construction, finish what we started under the 2020 system. You're going to see Remain in Mexico fully implemented, through executive order, giving ICE the ability to go out there and increase their detention capacity, directing through executive action the operation, the deportation, mass deportation operation he's been talking about the last year. It's going to be a lot of things. It's going to start getting that the wheels in motion because we're still dealing with people. So there's going to be a lag, but the drive, the attitude, that just getting back to business is going to start on day one. And I mark my words, you'll see a drastic, I would say initially a drastic drop on people arriving at our border because they know they better wait it out a little bit to see what's going to happen. But I can assure you there is going to be a huge sigh of relief by our law enforcement at all levels, knowing that the man in the White House has got their back. Our borders are going to get secure again. It's going to be great for the fundamental integrity of our law enforcement, our immigration enforcement. I'm sure there's a couple things that I'm not privy to that will take place, but rest assured, if you're here illegally and you are a criminal beyond being here illegally, like you're a gang member, you're a public safety threat, you're a national security threat, I would definitely sleep with one eye open because the law is coming for you.
Yeah, maybe they should get instead of the tear tattoo, that an eye open tattoo. Because
yeah. I mean, it's unbelievable to me that it's going to take that, right? I mean, look, I get it. We have a broken immigration system, and it's only been made worse by our open borders under Biden. But when I see governors and mayors and certain police chiefs, I can't believe a law enforcement person would even back up a mayor like this. But when they're saying they're going to outwardly resist Trump, when California, who is burning alive right now, when they had a special session and they're authorizing $50 million to combat Trump. I mean, that, there's a part of the oath that says against all enemies, foreign and domestic. You're going up against our constitutional and our legal rights to enforce the law under, the INA, under DHS Act, all this stuff. And you have people that are, trying to actively resist about going after criminals and people that would hurt others. We're not going to prioritize nannies unless the nanny's running a smuggling ring. We're not going after, gardeners unless the gardener is a part of a smuggling ring. But if you're a gang member, you're a threat to society. You're first on the chopping block, as polling in America has agreed with. Over 55 to 60% on several polls have shown they approve of mass deportation when you are targeting the criminals and the national security threats. And for anybody to resist that is just beyond fathomable to me. I'm glad I can't think that way. I'm glad I was raised right, that my brain doesn't allow me to get to that place.
Michael Gates, the city attorney in Huntington Beach, just filed a lawsuit against the state of California because California has set a state law sanctuary requirement. And the municipalities are like, you can't tell us that we have to deny federal law. And so that lawsuit's very interesting, and it's one to watch out there. Now, here's Tom Homan, and this is what he said. Basically, people are saying, oh, how are you going to get everybody out? Won't that be expensive? Won't that be a big operation? Here, check it out.
Will mass deportation hurt the economy?
I think mass deportation and results of mass deportation are more important to this country than anything. I don't put a price on Laken Riley's life. I don't put a price on all these young women who have been raped and murdered. I don't put a price on our national security. What price do you put on national security? So I think the national security of this nation, we can't afford another 9/11. We can't keep affording American citizens dying at the hands of illegal aliens.
You have mentioned that there could be a hotline for people to call in to report undocumented immigrants in their communities.
It's one thing we're considering, yeah.
One thing you're considering. What would that look like?
That's what we're working on it now. What makes sense? That's still a fresh idea, working on it. But I want a place where American citizens can call and report. We need to make sure they have an outlet to help report child traffickers, forced labor traffickers. We want to give
So again, more great ideas. And look, you've already seen in California, even though they're dealing with wildfires, groups of illegals who are present in California are now starting to protest. You saw this in New York as well. These people who are illegally in the United States are now protesting the United States for enforcing its own laws. Based on what Tom Homan is saying, what do you see this enforcement looking like after Trump takes office?
Well, the beauty of this country is whether you're here legally or born here or visiting here, you're protected by the Constitution. So they have the right to assembly, even though it is completely hypocritical that they're waving Mexican flags. But when we're said, well, we're going to give you a ride back to Mexico, they actively resist. What he talks about is there is no price for national security. When you look at the amount of money that this administration has spent on facilitating just the initial phase of people coming in here and the sanctuary city costs, and then you look at Laken Riley and Jocelyn and Rachel Morin, all those examples, right? And they're really, go on, every week we hear something bad happening. There is no price that I'm willing to, as a taxpayer, that I'm willing to, put on, make it happen, make them safe. We cannot afford, like, as Tom mentioned, another 9/11. It is a national security issue, and there's a way that we can get this done. He refers to, cooperating and working together on solutions. And I think that's important, right? Hold the administration, the incoming administration accountable. You're going to target these criminal aliens, work with them to make sure that they are targeting these criminal aliens and give resources so we're not winding up in the wrong neighborhoods looking for somebody and maybe, getting some collateral damage along the way, because that's possible. I'm not saying that if, to turn a blind eye to an illegal alien, but we need to focus our limited resources on that until we get the right resources. One thing I think is very important that I hope audience listens and understands, when you hear somebody saying they're not going to cooperate with ICE and not, work with them on criminals and detainers, it is much easier and safer to have a detainer placed on a non-citizen in jail, call ICE and have one lone ICE officer show up in a secure vehicle, go into a jail sally port, walk in there with a jailer, transfer custody of that prisoner, put them back in the secure vehicle in a sally port, and take them to an ICE detention facility to process them. There's little to no risk that way. But when you release them and they take off into a neighborhood and we have to go find them, then it's going to take a multiple ICE operation, multiple agents to go down there and track this person. Then you're going to end up bringing the community involved. You have a higher risk of crossfire or damage occurring. So if you really are caring about your community and caring about the people you claim to protect, work with ICE and cooperate so we don't have a situation to where we have law enforcement running through streets trying to run down somebody that you did have in jail a week before, but you didn't want to call ICE because you wanted to resist Trump. And again, I think cooperating cities is more important than sanctuary cities because, again, when you put this sanctuary policy in place, the people that you're actually protecting or think you're protecting are actually going to be preyed upon, because the smugglers and the criminal syndicates and transnational organizations that are smuggling, that are trafficking these people, know that nothing's going to happen to them. So they're going to continue to take advantage of it, like you saw happen in Aurora and Denver with Trinidad Aragua. They know that the people in that apartment complex, many of them were illegal Venezuelans. So where did they go to prey? They went to prey on those people that the city was trying to protect. So let's cooperate and root out those bad actors. And you know what? One last thing on that point. If you are willing, if you're a non-citizen and you are willing to testify and help in the prosecute a subject, if you are a victim of trafficking, the government actually has visa and parole programs to help you when you're helping the state or the federal government. And that could lead to a lawful pathway to get you some kind of immigration benefit and protection. So we actually have more to gain by getting the cooperation from people. Like Tom was mentioning, call in, let people know that you may or may not be witnessing trafficking or being a victim of that. There's actually an opportunity to help you than harm you, and especially if it can lead to a successful arrest and prosecution of a trafficker. So there's a lot of things that these cities would just stop being emotionally and intellectually immature and actually think about finding some common ground, some compassion and common sense, so we can save the people you're sworn to protect and not put our law enforcement in harm's way. And that way we can at least mitigate. Look, there's evil out there. We're not going to stop, every cold-blooded murderer out there. But we can sure do a good job of mitigating those that don't even have a lawful right to be here from even being a factor in that equation.
Absolutely right. And listen, I think a lot of people are very happy to hear everything that you're saying, knowing your experience on the border. And I think, look, the border is a big issue in the election, and I think people are going to be really excited on day one. Chris, this is what I'm going to do, and I appreciate your insight so much on the border. You're going to stick around because we're going to have a panel discussion, right, with the other friends from AmFest that you were giving me a hard time with, and I'm really excited to have up here in a few minutes here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a super quick break. Puppet, you're gonna wake up from your nap.
I'm here, James.
Oh, you're there. Oh, okay, good. And we get back. We have more of you, Chris Clem, and our very special guest panelists, and all of that is coming up right after this.
I'm Scotty Cahill, and I'm the founding partner at FinSec Life. FinSec Life is an independent agency that works with a multitude of carriers that brings the best pricing to each client we serve. With our 40 plus years of experience in the industry, allows us to deliver unique results to each individual client. We do not get paid until your policy is placed, until you have your insurance. So we will do the work. We will ensure that everything is taken care of, whether you get the best pricing, whether you get treated fairly by the underwriting team. If you have an existing policy and you want to know whether the policy is performing as it should, or if you have additional needs for insurance, please contact us at 321-800-3901, and we'll be happy to quote you on a new insurance. The phone number again is 321-800-3901, and the website is finseclife.com, financialsecurityforlife.com.
In today's fast-paced world, effective communication is the backbone of successful businesses. Are outdated systems and high costs slowing you down? Switch to Public Telephone Company for cutting-edge voice-over IP solutions. Enjoy seamless connectivity, unparalleled reliability, and significant cost savings. Tailor-made voice-over IP solutions designed for your business needs. Join countless businesses in transforming your communication with Public Telephone Company. Public Telephone Company. Revolutionize the way you connect.
I'm excited to announce our Christmas extravaganza is finally here. Get this season's flannel sheets for as low as $59.98. They won't last long, so get them while you can. Our famous My Slippers, they haven't been on sale for over a year. Regularly $119.98, now only $59.98. Our 6-piece towel sets are back in stock with extremely limited quantities, only $29.98. With hundreds of MyPillow products, there's something for everyone on your Christmas list. Bathrobes, duvets, quilts, down comforters, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save on all MyPillow products. For example, flannel sheets for as low as $59.98, or our 6-piece towel sets, just $29.98. But that's not all. I'm extending our 60-day money-back guarantee until March 1st of 2025. Plus, all orders over $75 or more ship absolutely free.
I am so sick of this woke crap.
Let's watch TV for normal people.
A super influencer is someone that takes the cause that they fight for, whether it's social media, networking, partnerships, and just dominates that movement with it. Let's get into today's episode.
We gotta build the chicken coop today.
We have 4 beautiful children that we adopted.
Anytime you're out there with your kids, it's teaching them to be a productive member of society. Let's herd them like cattle, boys and girls. Come on. We take race out of it. We parent based off principles.
We're going to take everyone's phone so they can sit and actually talk to each other.
This is a kitchen fight for sure.
My name's Tito Ortiz. Get some! Everybody knows me from the fighting world. Real. But I'm also an avid fisherman. Tito Ortiz got his sea monster.
Hello!
Hey guys, it's Conservative Ant.
I'm Kendall in Kentucky.
I'm Blake Reynolds.
I'm the Patriot Barbie.
I'm Amber Nicole Ortiz.
Check out the first and only non-woke entertainment.
Only on We the Studios.
You have daughters cheerleading, then you have parents chopping off their breasts.
There's so much to do to save America.
And as you know, we're powered by We The Studios as well. And so if you want to check out our past episodes or all that other great original content, go to WeTheStudios.com. And if you want to save money on a subscription, use promo code Pollack or Puppet. I prefer Pollack. And you can save yourself a little bit of money. Yeah, of course you do. And we are back. Mr. Chris Clem remains on the panel. And Chris, if you've never been on this show before, and you haven't, but you'll be back, I hope, this music that you hear, this is our panel music. And so what we do is we put this on as we're introducing our panelists. Puppet really likes it. And I go in, and so nobody gets offended. I go in order. And Jessica was in first. So Jessica is up. Let me introduce the audience to Miss Jessica Rey. Jessica Rey is a small business owner, a business extraordinaire, and a Power Ranger. True story. I thought Chris was lying to me. She's actually a Power Ranger. We morphed together. True story. We'll tell you all about it. See, there's Power Ranger stuff in the background. I'm waiting for my helmet. And next up, we have
need a helmet, Dave.
I do. We have Miss Mehek Cook. Mehek, you might have remembered her from a couple of weeks ago. She is still my favorite future senator, an attorney from Ohio. I think you guys are celebrating some win or some kind of match or something. I don't know. I don't watch football.
Massive win. I think Chief Clem celebrated with me too.
That's right. And by the way, in the chat room, Jim Bob says he saw me in and he thinks he saw me in a Kenny Rogers movie. Now we have a real actor on here now with Jessica. So no, it wasn't me, unfortunately, in a Kenny Rogers movie. But yeah, I still got my winter beard going on.
I didn't realize you could see those
yeah,
comments.
Ohio State's
That's
going
really
to the
funny
natty.
because I saw that comment and I was actually saving it for the panel because I didn't want, like, you were having this serious conversation about, the border and stuff. I didn't want to throw up this thing that said Kenny Rogers.
And I wish I would have gone in the break and got my cowboy hat because I at least could have played
well, I
into
should
the
have
role
told you.
a
No, we
little
also had somebody who doesn't like us in the background, but everybody looks free speech platform. He says our viewers are so silly that we need a puppet to explain our points. Trump is trying to get blocked out of or kicked out of NATO. Okay, so we. I
mean, maybe he needs a puppet to explain his points. Because that didn't make any sense at all.
Look, every free speech platform. Hey, I have a few different things I want to talk about today on the panel, right? And I've prepared clips for all of it. Of course, we're still looking at the California wildfires. We're looking at this Judge Merchan ruling from Friday. But the big thing I kind of want to talk about, because this is going to be coming up now in the next few days, is this incoming TikTok ban, censorship, and social media. So, yeah, we didn't see that coming, did we? So this is breaking. You guys might not have seen this yet. And this is being reported by Raw's Alerts over on the X platform. He says, breaking, Chinese officials are reportedly weighing a proposal for Elon Musk to acquire TikTok's U.S. operations in the event the app faces a potential ban with the deadline looming.
My goodness. That will send the world into the stratosphere.
Wow. So I don't know. Look, I haven't read it. I haven't vetted it. But Raw's News Alerts, he usually doesn't run with things unless they're pretty good. If you're not following that account, I encourage it. So we'll see. So this is going to be our first topic for the panel tonight. But first I get there, ladies, how are you doing tonight?
Very well.
Yes. So for our viewers, because I set it up so perfectly, you're ready for me to go to a clip or something, and I threw it all off. We morphed on.
This is how it started on Saturday night.
Awkward, awkwardly. Very awkward.
Three of us were in a very good conversation. Along comes David.
David Pollack is awkward, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if this is your first time tuning into this show, but Totally awkward all the time.
But we did morph. I showed the
We
video
morphed.
clip to my children. They thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
They thought your caption was hilarious.
My daughter thought I was cringy.
And we also celebrated my birthday. So there was a lot going on.
We did. Your October birthday in
December.
Yeah. So you're not getting a card. So I hope you're not waiting for one now because and that's Mehek's fault. Mehek says, "Hey, it's her birthday," and then later she says, "Can I tell you a secret? It's not my birthday." I'm like, "Mehek, what Mehek?" And she said, "We just tell everybody it's her birthday." So
She was trying to make you feel better because you said some things that didn't make us happy. So
that's not true. Chris said that wasn't true, and you guys were just making me feel bad, and I still feel bad.
No, I did not say that. I said I let you off the hook after 2 hours.
Mehek, big win, Ohio State. What do you think? Are they winning national championship or what?
They absolutely are. I don't think that there's going to be a single point that we're just going to hand over easily. I'm really excited. In fact, I'm sure many of you saw JD Vance's tweet. We have an important decision to make whether we're going to go to inauguration or the actual national championship playoff. So I don't know. We're sitting here wondering what we should do, but of course, we're all going to be at inauguration. We're super excited, but it's an amazing time to celebrate both victories, in my opinion. Can't wait for that. I want to get to your TikTok ban, David. I did see this. It's been all over the news. And I think several weeks ago, I actually called it saying that China would sell and there would be a massive individual here in America that would be willing to buy it. And I thought of Elon Musk, and I think it's going to be great for the platform. I think China has been spying on us for many, many years. And this is why this platform is banned in many states in government buildings. We shouldn't be allowing it. And I say that being on the platform, being worried about whether I'm being tracked, whether I'm being followed, I'm careful about what I post, but I don't know what that app is doing. I definitely hit the button that said, do not track, but you have no idea. And I'm sitting here worried every day. And I'm so glad we're looking at a U.S. investment in that.
Well, now, because, of course, the hearing didn't go too well, observers were saying at the front of the Supreme Court, they said that TikTok was getting, I guess, beaten up pretty bad by the justices. In light of that, there has been a couple of Congress members that are now asking for more time. Here, check it out.
Now that my colleagues understand that the TikTok ban is real, we need time to have a deeper conversation about how to address the national security risks caused by ByteDance's ownership of TikTok. We need time to understand the ban's implications on TikTok's creators and users. We need time to consider alternative ideas. This legislation does not repeal the original legislation. It merely allows for...
Now, several Congress people were asking for... I'm echoing again. So several...
Was he asking for more time?
More time.
I think he was asking for more time.
Okay.
Hey, I'll say I heard something the other day. I think it's Shark Tank O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, was looking at even getting a group together to purchase this. So, what I would say this, and then I'll be quiet on it. But first of all, from a law enforcement's perspective, I can tell you there has been so many TikTok videos of how that's how they're sharing information on how to cross and enter the country illegally, which smuggling routes to go. When you're crossing the Darien Gap, which way to go if you want to go up to Texas and go to the East Coast, or you want to go up through the central part, go through El Paso or Yuma, where I was at, or California. I mean, so it's being used for great challenges and fun. At the same time, it's also being used to communicate clandestine operations as it impacts law enforcement. And so I would say if there's any questions, suspend it, and they can always figure it out down the road and then reinstitute it if that's the case. But I don't see this helping us out right now, especially when it's got Communist China all over it. And again, we've just got countless videos of people using it to share how they entered illegally and what tactics to use and what to say when you're encountered by law enforcement.
This is the big question here, Chris, and I'll ask you, Jessica. The big question is this. There's free speech. And what one of the interesting arguments that the Supreme Court wasn't really considering initially, the freedom of speech kind of argument was being made in favor of TikTok, saying, well, doesn't TikTok have a right to speech? But as the Chinese company, they didn't. However, the users on the platform this is the big question. Freedom of speech, does that cover freedom to access information? And this is the big censorship question. If you're an American, do you have the right to get even information that the government doesn't want us to have, such as what you just referenced as far as smuggling tunnels, or information that could potentially be dangerous, like how to make explosive material, or God forbid, how to do harmful things? And the platforms have the moral and legal obligations in the United States to restrict some of that content if it's harmful, or it can be harmful because they could be held liable. Now, as long as they're able to be held liable, whose job is it to tell Americans what they can and can't consume? Because I've already heard from young people. They said, oh, well, if TikTok gets banned, I'm going to go to this other Chinese app that all the kids are downloading now instead. So Chinese apps are going to spy on Americans. And we all know that Facebook, Instagram, Google, and all these other platforms have had their fun with either censoring information or giving information from Americans to the government when it's requested. So what is this fear really all about? Is the fear that they can't make, and I have a clip and I'm going to play in a minute after I go to Jessica, of Mark Zuckerberg when he had his whole change of heart, when the government told him before what he had to do and the information he wasn't allowed to share. Is the real question, in my theory, is the real question here isn't so much that China spying on us, is that the United States government can't tell China to, hey, you can't give Americans this information. Is this a freedom of speech issue, or is this an access to information issue? And I'll throw that to you, Jessica.
It's very heavy. Thank you.
I know.
For giving that to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I can see both sides of the issue. I actually had no idea what Chris was saying earlier about that information getting out on how to get into our country and what to say to the officials that are down there. And all of that is obviously very scary and threatens the security of our country and our citizens. So, I don't know where the line is drawn, if there should be a line or what. I've actually never used TikTok, and it's mostly because of what Mehek said earlier, that, with the spying, and it is kind of scary and you have to be more careful. And so I kind of just opted to not use it and not download it or have it on my phone at all.
No. Well, Mehek, let me throw it to you then, because I know you believe that the platform is dangerous for national security and it's a spying platform. But to my question of freedom of speech versus freedom to access information, how much information should Americans be able to access, and should the government be able to control what information they access, even if that information is risky to the American consumer? Where is the national security risk? Is it that people have this information, or is it that the government can't control it?
So I think we're talking about two different things, but we're merging them. And that's where it gets really murky, right? If you just talk about freedom of speech, we all have that as American citizens. It should not be banned. It's not what we saw this on Facebook with what Meta was doing for political candidates. What they were doing is they were targeting President Trump. And now Zuckerberg has had to backpedal. And it's so sad that he's blaming his employees rather than himself, because this was his policy. This was his mandate. It's his platform. But when you look at TikTok, it's different. This is a Chinese app, correct? So it's a Chinese app that is coming within the United States. We don't understand when we're downloading it on our phones. Is it downloading more information? Is it accessing our data? Is it using any classified information a government agency or an individual can have? And that's where it's not free speech. That's where it's breaching certain national security protocols that I can't speak to. We don't have enough information. But when somebody says national security to me, I'm at least interested to hear, what is this application doing? What is it tracking? What are the breaches? And we know for a fact that China is a threat. We saw a spy balloon that Biden refused to shoot down. We're now seeing drones that are continued to show a little bit of coverage in New Jersey. Are those drones Chinese apps and spies? We don't have enough information, but the one thing I know is China's a threat. So we do need more information, but I think you shut it down and then you figure it out and then revamp it if a U.S. businessman or woman does want to buy it. India banned it in 2020. There's so many countries that have said, absolutely not. We're not going to allow spying on our land. So I don't think it's free speech. I think it's a national security issue.
So one last follow-up question, and I know I usually go around the panel, but it's an interesting discussion, and it's a window in that our world doesn't always have to agree with one another. We can still have these discussions, which is what makes our side so much better than the other side. But here's the thing, though, and this is, I think, going to be the big lift for the Supreme Court, and because the Supreme Court likes to have clear, bright lines. They like to have rules that can be applied to other cases in similar situations. Are we going to create because this is a very interesting sort of question. Are we going to create lists of countries that are allowed to spy on Americans and not? Because it's a Chinese-owned app, but there's plenty of apps that are made in India, plenty of apps that are made in the Koreas, plenty of apps that are made in Europe, plenty of apps that are made in America that spy on Americans. American apps spy on Americans. So is it the issue that we don't trust China to spy on Americans, or we don't like apps that spy on Americans? And if we're going to create a rule that apps can't spy on Americans, is it only from certain countries? Where do you draw the line? Shouldn't we ban all spying then on all the Americans from all apps? Why limit it to just Chinese companies?
Well, I think there's a difference between surveillance and then accumulating customer information. Jessica or Chief Clem could be shopping online for ammo, for instance, right? And I'm a gun company and I'm making sure that I'm collecting their IP address and then targeting them with ads. That's different than surveillance. The minute you're doing surveillance, that is now in the realm of national security. And those are the things that the US government is trying to ban. In fact, Biden actually passed a law that specifically said, and I'm going to just read this to you, the Protecting American from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications. It was signed into law April of 2024, and it specifically said that the government has the authority to ban foreign apps that are used for surveillance. I think surveillance is very different than apps like what Facebook was doing, for instance, where they were spreading disinformation. It wasn't even misinformation. It was specific, it was targeted, and it was to change the course of the election.
Now, has there been, I know there was lots of testimony, and I listened to a lot of the testimony, but has there been any evidence put forward that shows that TikTok was engaging in surveillance, or that was just a concern that it could engage in surveillance?
I'm not sure. I actually haven't looked at all the testimony. It's something that I would post to Chief Clem, or if Jessica has seen it as well. But I think we need to dig a lot deeper to understand exactly what surveillance means and what this app was doing. I don't think we have all the information, or at least I don't.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think if there was truly surveillance going on, that would probably be something that wouldn't have been public, because it would have been something that would, could have been a national security risk. Look, this is a lot different than cookies when you go onto a website or an app, right? Yeah. This is to Mahek's point. This is surveying and tracking and accumulating information that could be used against you, against us. Look, I don't think any American wants anybody, tracking them and what they're doing, whether it's a website or an app or how many games you're playing. Look, I'm concerned that, if they're tracking, ammunition I'm buying here in Arizona, next thing you know, they're saying, hey, he's in California. Let's go see if he's got ammunition and violating our laws. I mean, that's where this whole, slippery slope can go. People don't want that police state. And China is a police state. And when they, as Mahek referenced, when you have spy balloons going over, you have drones going over, look, people are concerned. And then when there's at least information out there that the TikTok being Chinese owned is something that could be tracking and surveying on Americans, that's a problem. She said it. I said it. Let's suspend it until we can get this right. Give us peace of mind. And when we have peace of mind, then let's open up the app and let's have fun.
Arguments. Now, Mark Zuckerberg, and this is I found very interesting, and there's so much I want to get to. Puppet, do you have something you wanted to say to it, or are you just stretching?
I do want to just say something about it. I think one of the things that's not being discussed right now and has come up in the discussion on Capitol Hill is the conversation regarding not only just surveillance and free speech, but also about the brainwashing elements that the Chinese are doing using the platform on our citizens and especially our youth, creating a feeling of positivity toward China is one of the things that was discussed in surveys related to people that watch, the type of content on TikTok versus on other platforms, how it positions the Chinese Communist Party and communist parties in general in our with our youth and the things like that. And when you get into that part, it's not even about surveillance or about free speech, but about how positioned content can infiltrate our citizenry and what it can, the effect that can have over time on our people, and as it relates to our biggest adversaries and the national security. So it's a completely different thing.
What?
Isn't that the Marxism 101 with propaganda and continue to do the lie and repeat it enough times over several weeks, several months? The same thing can be doing through influence on TikTok. Look, in the chat room, Jim Bob brings another good point. Our car insurance are tracking us in real time. But to that point, that's an American base. That's something different. Same family, just a cousin.
I mean, this is really kind of like China doing what the liberals have done with our education system over the last 30 years. I mean, this is how you get to where you get, and you make the things that disrupt our culture, you make them okay. And you do it slowly, like you boil the frog slowly, you boil the citizenry slowly, and you end up in a place where it's really hard to unwind from.
Well, and this is what the leftists have been doing for a long time on Facebook. And speaking of that, I have this clip that I really want to show you, and I posted on X. I said elections have consequences, and this is probably one of the most consequential things that came out of this election. Check it out.
I want to talk about something important today, because it's time to get back to our roots around free expression on Facebook and Instagram. I started building social media to give people a voice. I gave a speech at Georgetown 5 years ago about the importance of protecting free expression, and I still believe this today. But a lot has happened over the last several years. There's been widespread debate about potential harms from online content. Governments and legacy media have pushed to censor more and more. A lot of this is clearly political, but there's also a lot of legitimately bad stuff out there. Drugs, terrorism, child exploitation. These are things that we take very seriously, and I want to make sure that we handle responsibly. So we built a lot of complex systems to moderate content. But the problem with complex systems is they make mistakes. Even if they accidentally censor just 1% of posts, that's millions of people. And we've reached a point where it's just too many mistakes and too much censorship. The recent elections also feel like a cultural tipping point towards once again prioritizing speech. So we're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring
the one big thing. Here's that echo again. It's going to be here for a few seconds. I'm sorry. All right.
So, well, look, I'll tell you. When I heard that, there's two comments. One, it was like when I flunked algebra my freshman year, and my dad was going to take my car away for the semester or the reporting period. Was me making an argument why he shouldn't take my car away from me. That's what that Zuckerberg sounded like. Like he was making this ridiculous argument that we all know you screwed up and you're trying to backtrack. And second of all, I think what Greg Gutfeld said is that, when you're a billionaire, stop cutting your own hair. That's what it looked like, like he just looked ridiculous making this ridiculous speech that he was making.
Rich people always have long hair. I've noticed. Rich people always have. I'm going to grow my hair out, and so it's be like a nice watch. It'll, instead of having to buy an expensive watch, I'm just going to grow my hair out crazy. But one of my big takeaway from that was, well, this last election showed that maybe I guess the populace is changing their mind about wanting to be censored. Think about how significant that is, and then I'll throw it to you guys on the panel, because if Donald Trump didn't get elected, Mark Zuckerberg wouldn't have reversed the policy keeping conservatives and political opinions that the government disagreed with. It would have kept it off the platform. Think about how big. I don't think people realize for a second. You guys do. You're smart. But for regular folks that don't think about this stuff regularly, folks like us do, because we're shadow banned and our content is censored and hidden. But other than Elon Musk buying X, conservatives for years weren't allowed to have a voice. AM radio and Rush Limbaugh was really the only place you were getting information. And then Elon buys X. All of a sudden, we're allowed to say things. We win an election, and now Mark Zuckerberg is like, guess what? You guys change your mind. Now you're allowed to have information that we weren't letting you have access to. I can't I can't even understate how significant that is. Jessica, I'm going to throw it over to you first. Wow, right?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the same reason I don't use TikTok. I just sort of stopped using Facebook a long time ago, especially during the pandemic, when everything I would post that was really just common sense was getting shadow banned, and people, or people were just yelling at me, telling me I was a stupid idiot. And so it just, I was like, okay, well, and then the more I would talk to them, and then people are like, oh, I can't see your posts anymore. You were making sense, and now I can't see it. It's gone. So I kind of stopped using it. So, maybe he's just like, well, the majority of the people want free speech, and they want their voices to be heard. They're sick of being shadow banned. And so now I got to, give them what they want.
Yeah. Well, heck, throwing it over to you.
Well, and Jessica makes a great point right now, because she specifically stated she's not really using Facebook anymore. Think about how many people stopped using Facebook. I post on there because there's certain work related things that I'm doing, but for the most part, I don't spend time on Facebook anymore. And what Mark is doing, Mark Zuckerberg, is competing or trying to with Elon Musk in the free speech platform. All the money that they were spending, small businesses like mine and so many others, we have now shifted. My couple dollars have now shifted to Elon Musk. And what Zuckerberg is seeing is, well, Trump and his administration aren't going to be for me. And on top of that, I'm losing money. So he didn't do this for the right reasons. He didn't have a change of heart, because if he really believed that he had to change his policies and his course, I want to see the proof. I want to see where Biden threatened him or his family to stop the disinformation. Other than that, I don't believe what he's saying. This is like every other politician, just for personal gain in his checkbook, nothing else. It's not about the American people, and it's definitely not about the truth.
Oh, well, yeah. Chris, throw it over to you.
Well, I was just thinking about, your segue about what would have happened if Harris would have won. Nothing would have changed. Look, they were already trying what DHS was going to have, the Office of Misinformation or whatever it was. I mean, look, we were very sensitive to that because it was our voice that was being shut down. I think that, I don't really do much on Facebook. I like Instagram stories because they disappear pretty quick, and what I thought was a good idea is gone in the next day, because it usually probably wasn't. But
like coming on the show,
this
right?
is
You're going to go tomorrow and be like, what was I thinking?
Yeah. What was I thinking? Well, no, I during the break I bought a puppet. Now I'm regretting it.
You're going to try to compete with David. That's a good. You'll kill it. You'll kill it, Chris. No problem.
No, look. In all seriousness, back to Zuckerberg. Mehek and Jessica are right. Like this is just somebody that's trying to CYA, trying to compete, realizing that he is not going to be in the good light if he doesn't try to come back around, at least try to save some face here. Mm-hmm. Information is critical. Look, society has. I always say this: the interconnectedness of this world is so amazing and so wonderful. To connect with people, to be able to continue relationships when you get to meet people or old high school friends. But when it's wrong information, when it's misinformation, when it's used for bad, it creates all sorts of problems. And then we know how much propaganda was shoved down our face through their fact checkers. You mentioned one thing about, a Republican candidate on Facebook, and you'd be attacked as misinformation or fact checked or whatever they called it, just for stating your opinion. So, yeah, I think he's just he's crawfishing is my term. He's just backpedaling, trying to figure out a way to how he can be relevant, and compete in today's world, because he's got a huge following. There's no doubt about that. But we've got to recognize that First Amendment is there for our reasons and our benefits, not for his profit.
Puppet.
Yeah, I've got so much to say about this, and that clip we could do a whole show on it.
I really, after this segment, by the way, I feel like we could have done a whole show on this topic. I mean, there's three other things I want to talk about. We're not going to get to it.
I haven't watched that clip. I have thought about it. Yeah. I have so much to say about it. I love how he said, because there's a couple things. I love how he said, like, oh, after the election, it looks like the people are interested in free speech. When were the people not interested in free speech? No, it was the government wasn't interested in free speech. And we've always been interested in it. And you were complicit in censoring us and it. So thank you for that, jerk. And but now all of us give him a little credit, and I think there is some credit to give and some blame to throw somewhere else, which is I do believe 100% that the Biden administration, the government, went to Facebook and basically at gunpoint ransom them to do their bidding, because that's what they do. This administration, at least this administration, but other administrations as well, have done exactly that. This is what the government does and has done for years. They hold people at gunpoint like a Gestapo and make them do things that they don't want to do. They make them do their bidding, and they do it through coercion. And the cronyism of commercial companies colluding with the government is all over the place. It's disgusting, and it 100% has to stop. Hopefully, when Trump gets in there, we'll see some of that ending, and that would be a big, huge stranglehold off of our country if we can get that done. And the other part of this thing is that I was racking my brain, like, why and what other reasons would Zuckerberg turn a corner so sharply here? And it all has to do with foreign governments, just like we're dealing with TikTok as because it's a foreign government entity in our space. These social media platforms like Zuckerberg are getting tremendous pressure right now from other governments. They're going to start getting sued. They're going to start getting sanctioned. They're going to start getting censored. And of course, that's not good for their bottom line. They're not going to be able, Zuckerberg realizes that he is not going to be able to fight the UK if they start coming down and coming after him. And that is on the horizon. The only way he can survive that is with the backup of the United States government. Yeah. Now he's on the wrong side of that coin, since this election went the way they didn't think it was going to go. And now he needs the Trump administration. So of course, what is he going to do? He's going to say, oops, sorry, now we're on your side. And
yeah, he's not going to survive. He wouldn't survive Attorney General Pam Bondi if she gets a hold of him. So a little mea culpa now. And Americans generally are a forgiving group, right? So if he shows some remorse on the front end, maybe it won't be so bad if he cooperates on the back end. Because if they start peeling back some layers, they're going to see this, and it's going to expose this Democratic media machine that was compromising all Americans with their version of the truth versus what was really happening.
Yeah, it's incredible. And look, it's just one of the many victories now that we're having. And in 7 short days, lots more victories to come. There was other things I wanted to talk about tonight, but I'm 8 minutes beyond out of time. This topic is just so interesting. You're right, Papa. We could have done an hour on it. And you guys what an amazing panel. You guys,
thank you guys.
It's so many interesting things you guys have to say about all of this stuff. Really, really, really great show. Before I go, and guys, I did want to talk about the fires. Everybody's been talking about the fires. Plenty of information out there about the fires. Gavin Newsom's an idiot. So is the mayor of LA. That summarizes that for you. And of course, Judge Rashan decided that Trump was going to be basically sentenced to being a felon, so they can hang that over his head on Inauguration Day. But don't worry, that case is going to be reversed soon. Just ridiculous political
It's only going to make Trump stronger.
Yeah.
That everything they keep doing only just makes the case.
Yeah, exactly. But now, before I go, though, I wanted to give Jessica, you have a clothing line that we talked about at AmFest. I want you to give an opportunity to tell our viewers about it real quick and let people know where they can find it.
I do. I am not sitting in my closet as it looks like I am right now. This is actually my office. I'm in the middle of designing my next line of swimsuits that is all made in the USA with Italian fabrics. I've been doing this for about 17 years now. They are more modest swimsuits for ladies who want to dress a little bit more conservatively at the beach. And you can find it at jessicaray.com.
Yeah, JessicaRey.com. Go check out those bathing suits.
I've been telling David he needs a more conservative.
I was waiting for it. I was waiting for it.
I would agree.
Mahak, if people want to find out more information about all the things you're working on, where can they come and find you?
I post regularly on X and Instagram. It's just at Mahak Cook, or lots of people find me on my website, mahakcook.com, and they send me all sorts of colorful commentary, and I really enjoy it, and I try and respond to the best of my ability.
Awesome. And then Chris, if people want to find you, where can they find you?
In the desert in Arizona. Good luck. ChrisClemOfficial.com is my website that is updated pretty much weekly with any video clips and the podcasts I've been doing. And then C Clem Official on Twitter. Was been kind of quiet the last few days because I think everything has been centered around Los Angeles, and I didn't want to just jump on the bandwagon there. But as business picks up with the new administration coming in, we'll be very active. So
thank you all very much for being on the panel tonight. It was great getting to know you guys in Arizona, and it's great to have you on the show with me and my plush patriotic pal Puppet.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, David.
All right, guys. As always, we leave the show.
Thank you, Puppet, for having me on.
You're welcome, buddy.
We always leave the show on a funny note. Puppet picked out a clip tonight, so this is straight from Puppet's imagination, and it's courtesy of our friends over at the Dilly Meme Team. Thanks for picking it out, Puppet. And you always have something to say before we wrap, don't you, Puppet?
Yep. Everybody knows the fleece stops here. See you next time.
Good night, everybody.